After he goes in.
Yeah.
There's the answers to 1 and 2. It should be pretty obvious right off the bat that we got it right. Wrong. Number 3 and 4 coming right up. 3, 4, 5, 6. 4, negative 4, negative 3, negative 6. 5, negative 1, 2. 6, 0, 7. 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 5, 0, 8, negative pair of negative 4s, 9, negative 4, 1, 10, 4, 1. My favorite, 11, 12. Dash line, make sure. Both left and okay. 13, 14. Yeah, make sure you have the same solid lines left dash line. I would say if you're going to go wrong, these would be one of the two that you would go wrong in. 16. And first 2-story problem. New York style cheesecake, $5. Chicago chocolate marble, 11. 18, $4 for wind flower. Not wild, but wind flower. And crocus is $4. And boys and girls, give them all ages, the moment you've all been waiting for. Van 11, bus 44. No, ticket 11. Student ticket $10. If there are no other questions, we will commence bidding at $3.50. Everybody's confident and or happy. Yes, Luke Franklin.
What was going to read number 6?
One more, please. All right.
Adjust the giant board on the wall.
Or somebody could just tell you it. What is this? What? 0, negative 7, maybe? Uh-oh.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Some ideas this year. Can I tell you I very much dislike the new Adobe whatever this thing is? There's 6, 0, negative 7. This would be the time when you'd ask the ever burning questions about why in the wide world of sports. With this math is so easy, I got it wrong, Brooklyn.
What? How do you do number 10?
How do I do it? That's the very good question. Let's look and see. Number 10. You shall blow this up. Alright. First of all, what method are we supposed to use to solve this, Brooklyn? Elimination, substitution, or graphing?
I think it's elimination. Yeah.
Is it elimination, everybody? Alright. So, Brooklyn, your thought process here, or no thought process? What can you get both numbers to be so they eliminate? You have multiple choices here.
I mean, I put 15.
15 is perfect. Okay, but the problem with 15, which by the way, you'd have to multiply these by 5s, right? Because that would give you 15 there. You'd have to multiply these by 3s, correct?
Yeah.
But Problem is, these would both end up being negative, so you need to make one of them need to be positive. Your choice.
Bottom one?
Sure, it doesn't matter. You want me to do bottom?
Sure.
The only reason I hesitated with that is because if I do bottom, I'm gonna work with negative numbers. If I do the top, I'm gonna work with positive
Oh,
numbers.
top.
Just because when I multiply 20 by 5, that'll be a positive 100 as opposed to that. But it doesn't matter. You can do it either way. So multiplying everything on top by -5. So here's what I end up with. 15x plus 40y equals 100. You with me? And then on the bottom, I end up with negative 15x plus 27y equals negative 33. And lo and behold, when I combine those, I get, did I do something wrong, by the way? Is this 27? Did I not write? Did I write 27 and it didn't write?
You said 27.
When I put this together, I get 67, which seems like an awkward number until I get over here, which also gives me 67. 67y equals 67. Divide by 67. Divide by 67. So y actually equals a positive 1. So if y equals 1, I just put 1 into one of those two equations up there. It doesn't matter which. Let's go with the second one. Minus 5x plus 9 times 1, which is what y is, equals negative 11. So negative 5x plus 9 equals negative 11. Subtract 9, subtract 9, I get negative 20. Negative 5x equals that. Divide by my negative 5, divide by negative 5. Looks like x is going to equal a big fat 4. And the book writes it as an ordered pair of 4, 1. Which is the same thing. Does that help Brooklyn do that? Thanks for somewhere there. Okay.
How do you do number 3?
Solve by substitution. And again, people, well, it doesn't matter. If it's substitution, you have to see, you look at which one is solved for a single letter, and that would be this. You know that y equals this. It's called substitution because you are going to take what y equals and substitute it in for y in the other equation. So this will look like this. I keep my 4x, my minus, my 5, and then where the letter y is, I substitute this in, and it needs to be with parentheses because it's looked at as one big group. And that equals negative 6. Kate, did you get that far?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's where you always have to watch out. This is a negative 5, and that times that negative 1 is going to give you a positive 5. I can tell you right off the bat that's where some trouble always comes in. Negative 5 times positive 3x is negative 15x. Negative 5 times negative 1 is plus 5. And then you end up with a negative 6 there. Did you get that, Kate?
No.
Did you mess up on the negative 5 times the negative 1?
Well, I got to the part and then I put it equals 16.
And then solving from there, 4x minus 15x is a negative 11x. Subtract my 5 over, subtract my 5 over there, and I get a negative 11 over there. So x is going to equal 1. Once you know the x, you go back to any one of the two equations and put that in for x. 3 times 1 is 3 minus 1, y then is 2. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Wow, not enough participation today. No, don't clap. That was just hypothetical. Did I do something wrong? Isabel?
Number 16.
Number 16, children. Oh, look, right off the bat, he's close. Is that this one? No? Is that this one? Over here? Down here? Want me to make it a little bigger or not? 16. Right away, boys and girls, somebody tell me, I always kind of glance at the problem and say, are there going to be any issues with this problem, something out of the ordinary? And on this one I look and I say, right off the bat, I say, yes, Laney Kavarik, it is.
Y is negative.
Yes, and this part of this problem here, the y is negative, which means as soon as you see that, you got to think that this no longer, when you graph it out, you no longer think about it being greater than, but you flip it to be less than. So you're going to shade the bottom half of that. Anytime you see that negative y in standard form, that's what you should be thinking. So here we go. And again, these don't work out perfectly, but they work out close. If I'm sketching the line of this, I cover up the x. My y-intercept is -3 divided by -3, which is a +1. My x-intercept is, I have to take -3 and divide it by 2. It's a -3 divided by 2, which is a -1.5. That's what 3/2 is. Which means here's -1, here's -2. -1.5 falls halfway between those two. It is equal to, so it is a solid line. I am going the extra mile for you today. Actually, I'm going to actually put a solid line there. That might be kind of big, but hey. And there's the graph of that line. And here's what we talked about. Since this was greater than, but the y was negative, you shade the smaller, the less than side of it. And the less than side is this side. For the second part, which we shall do in red, this one's all okay because the y is positive. Y-intercept, -9 divided by 3 is a -3. X-intercept, -9 divided by 2 is a -4.5. So here at -1, -2, -3, -4, between -4 and -5 is -4.5. Again, it is a solid line. No, it's a dashed line because it's negative. How am I going to do that? I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Watch this. The dash line and y is greater than, so you shade the greater than side of that. Sorry. And the place where they overlap, which appears to be right here, is the answer. Riley, 15. Is that the same one? Again, Riley, I look at this and I say, I see another -y, so you got to think about switching that sign to its opposite, right?
Yep.
So it'll look like this. Cover up the x. Y is -3. Cover up the y. X is 3. It's a closed circle or closed or an equal sign, so it's a solid line. Shading the opposite of it, y is less than, so you go to the bottom side, you're going to shade this. Get that right? For the other one, I can't seem to get this to work. Y is +1, x is 1 divided by 3. 1 divided by 3. Where is that 1/3? About right here. I'll give it to you if you're relatively close. Again, it's a solid line. And you are shading the less than where y-axis gets smaller. So you are shading this part of this. And the place where it overlaps is right here. too subtle if it's a negative y. I feel very good about this right now. Brianna,
Number 9.
lucky number 9, children. You got it on this page? There it is. Solving by what method here, Brianna? Substitution, I'm guessing. No, elimination. Elimination. The toughest part is finding what would be your common thing that you could multiply by, or what number do you need to get? Yeah, and this is the opposite, so it's good. So the top is going to have to be multiplied by all 3's, and the bottom by all 4's. You could have picked 42, by the way, it doesn't matter. Now you come up with some common multiple. So you end up with 12x plus 18y equals negative 30. I'm usually convinced that if most of you make mistakes on this, it's mostly because you don't take a big enough piece of paper to spread out this stuff nice and evenly and keep yourself organized. Negative 12x, 4 times negative 7 is negative 28y, 4 times 5 is positive 20. Add them together and the 12s go away. You end up with a negative 10y equals negative 10. Divide by our negative 10s, and y equals positive 1. Let's do the hard one. I'll put y as positive 1 in the bottom one. Negative 3x minus 7 times what y is equals 5. Negative 3x minus 7 equals 5. Add 7, negative 3x equals 12. X will equal negative 4. Divide by. I'm sorry, is it negative 3? Yeah. Negative 3. Yeah, I had that before. I don't know. I was just thinking that. Sorry. Sorry. I predict nothing but A's tomorrow. With a smattering of an A minus here or there. Maddie Roth. I was hoping somebody would ask a story problem. Just was hoping. 19. 19. Oh, that's not very good. So here we go. Step number 1, define your variables. What don't you know and what are you looking for? You are looking for how many students can a van and a bus carry. So your unknowns are a van is how many students. And a bus would be my how many a bus can carry. Not how many buses, but how many can fit in each one. And what are my equations? Well, 4 vans plus 9 buses can give me a total of 440 students. 11 vans plus 12 buses gives me 649. Everybody's happy? And this is where the wheels fall off. What is your common denominator, or what's the smallest thing that you could do one of these by to get the other one? You've got your choice between 4 and 11 and 9 and 12. Wait, who asked me this one? Maddie, did you get this far? What did you multiply what by? All right, I'll go with that. Bottom one by 4. Top one by 11. Now the problem with that, Maddie, is these are both positive and that won't change. So you have to pick one of them to multiply by negative so these become opposites. Did you? Because otherwise you'll just get really big. Which one did you multiply? Which one was the negative? 11 or the 4? So these were all negatives. Negative, negative, negative. So here's our new equations. 4 times 11 is 44b. 11 times 9 is 99. B is 11 times 440. You gotta be kidding me. What is that? 440 and 440, which is 048, 4,840. Right? I'm sorry, did I do something wrong again?
440 times 440.
What is 440 times 11? Anybody? You do it for me and tell me I'm wrong. And I will bow in humble submission to your thoughts, Elijah Fisher. You work on that. Tell me what you get when you multiply 440 by 11. On the bottom one, I'm multiplying by a negative 4, so I get negative 44y. Negative 4 times 12 is negative, is that right? 48b. And then 649 times 4, what's that, 36, 316, 19, 1, 24, 2,596. Elijah, did you get an answer yet? I'm waiting. 440 times 11 is what?
What you got? I was confused. I thought you wrote 440 times 440.
Now what happens? These go away. 99 minus 48. Anybody? Is that 51? Man, I hope this works out. I hate when I get in the middle of a problem and then it just doesn't work out. 10 is 4, 8, 7, 13, 4, 2, 2. What do you think? Is it going to work out? Elijah, you've questioned me before. Do you think this will work out? 2, 2, 4, 4 divided by 51. 50 goes into this. What's that? 204? Oh, look, 204. 44! How about that, ladies and gentlemen? B is 44. That's how many people can fit on a bus. 44 peeps. And then if you plug all that in there, I think you get 11 for a van. Is that right? Do I have to plug the 11 in there? Do I have to do that? Somebody should say yes, you should.
Yes,
do
you
it.
should. Do it.
Why do you make me do it? Alright, so 44, and for the letter B, I'm going to put 44 in right here. 4B plus 9 times 44 equals 440. Oh, that doesn't look good. That just doesn't look good. Are you going to question my 44 times 9? What is that?
Oh no,
It's at 36, so 36, 396, subtract 396. I get 4, 54, 4 goes into 54, that doesn't make sense. Stop, what did I do wrong? This is where you question me, 36, 336, 396. Oh, this is 44, yeah, it's 11. Sorry. Again, that's what happens when you try to cut corners. I am the perfect example of that. I'm trying to do it a little quickly, and that don't happen. But not my 440 times 11. Jason! Who? Is that on this page or the other? This page? Is that like a story problem? Yeah. I don't want to do story problems. Jason, did you define your variables?
Yeah,
What did you pick to be what?
I put C in for the, wait,
C stands for what?
the chocolate, marble cheesecake.
Oh boy. What did you put the other one to be?
N is New York style
Okay.
cheesecake.
N is New York, and C is chocolate. I'll go with that. So you said 6 New Yorks plus 5 chocolates equaled $85. And then you put 8 New Yorks plus 5 cheesesteaks equals $95. And then you multiplied what by what to get what? Or is that where you stopped?
I added some.
Yeah, but if you add them here, you get, nothing drops out, because you get 14, you get 10, you get whatever. So you have to change, you have to alter them a little. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You need one of these to be -5. It's your call which one you want to do, which one do you want to make negatives, top or bottom.
Bottom.
And the reason Elijah was saying top is because then you don't have to deal with negatives, but it doesn't matter. Negative, negative, negative. Put these two together, you get -2n, -8 and 6. These cross off, which is what you want to happen, and you end up with a -10 there. Not too bad, man. Divide by -2, divide by negative. New York is $5 per cake. And then you put $5 in for either one of those. Let's do the top. 6 times 5 plus 5, C equals 85. 30 plus 5, C equals 85. Subtract my 30. Subtract my 30, I get 55 equals 5C. So C equals 11. The chocolate apparently is, by the way, chocolate is apparently going up because the cacao beans is not hard. Something's going on down there. Yeah, well, they can't harvest. The weather's not good for it down there. Chocolate is one of those foods.
All natural.
Chocolate is one of those foods that is not that bad for you. Pure cow, especially dark cow.
Oh, yeah, but Junkie was
Well,
better.
it's natural.
Sweet is just bad for dogs.
Every
Watch your who?
Well, you don't want to get it with chocolate. I know.
Questions, more questions. Focus back on mathematics. Don't make me come after you. Really, nobody has any other questions on any of this stuff? CD 8, ladies and gentlemen. Number 8. Are we doing this by substitution, elimination, or drafting? Alright, so what did you do, Gemma? First of all, you got a pair of 7s here, but they're not opposite, so if you add them together, they don't drop out, so you do have to change something. Any thoughts, advice, words of wisdom, anything? I'm grasping the straws here. You didn't do it? Oh, you can't. You could do this. I could show you how to do this by substitution, but I'm going to guarantee, well, there's about an 80% chance that I would make some silly mistake somewhere because this does not work with substitution. You would have to solve this for one of the letters and then substitute some big fractional phrase. And no, I could do it. I think I could do it given enough time, but I'm not going to waste your time because you got other things to do. So, Jenna, let's rewind back here and do this by elimination. What would you do to do this by elimination? Who? Well, multiply. I guess you could say divide, but I usually call multiply. Yeah. Since this is a positive, yeah, multiply this by negative, change that to its opposite, change that to its opposite. So we're all good, Jenna? Add them together, what do you end up with? The 7x's all go away. You end up with 3y equals -12. Divide by 3, divide by 3. Y equals -4. You really tried to do that by substitution? Because that would be bad. That would not be a pleasant situation. And then plug in, I plug y into this one just because I can mutilate that equation. 7x minus 2 times a -4 equals -20. 7x plus 8 equals -20. Subtract 8, 7x equals -28. And wonderfully, it works out to be a -4 for x. I've got all day, people. Let it be known. expecting great things tomorrow. R-E-A-T-E. Then we review, because we gotta get up to that. I wanna at least achieve a 250. Then I think we have hope for the 253. People are, you can do it. You can do it. Jade, shoot.
7.
Is that the one right next to her here? Well, walk me through it, Jason. What do I have to do? Again, these are both 6s, but they're not opposites, so.
Make the bottom one negative.
So change the bottom by multiplying by negative, so this becomes a -6. This is a positive, this is a negative. I'll see where this is going. You end up with 11y equals 0. And what happens? Can I take 0 and divide it by 11? Yes, you can. The 0 can be on top, it can't be on the bottom. If it's not on the bottom, it's no solution. But this is y equals 0. And then you put 0 in for y, and any of the two, I'll put it right there. 6x plus 4 times 0 equals 30. 6x plus 0 equals 30. Get rid of my 0 by subtracting, I have to divide by 6. X apparently is 5. Where did you go wrong there, Mr. Schutzer? Just so I. Anyway. Alright, I'll get back to you on that. Did
I
you?
think I put the wrong number in.
To what?
I thought the 6x was B next time.
Oh. I'm slightly scared, Elijah. This isn't deal with math. Maddie Roth. Number 4. Which one is 4? What is this number? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, this is substitution, is it not? Where did we go wrong, Maddie? So did you substitute in the stuff? And you just didn't work out? You do it on a ginormous piece of paper? So this is what y equals, Maddie, right? So you substituted it in right here. Alright, again, be careful with this. This is where trouble usually comes. Negative x minus 2, negative x minus 2, and then what y is, which is 6x plus 12 equals 15. Did you get that right so far there? Alright, distributive property gives you negative 2 times positive 6x is a negative 12x. Negative 2 times a positive 12 is a negative 24. So far right?
Yes.
Okay, combining my x's, a negative 12 and a negative x is negative 13 x's. Add 24 to get it to the side, add 24 to get it to the other side, I get 39. Which means I probably did it right because 13 in fact goes into 39, divide by negative 13, divide by negative 13. X is negative 3. If I put negative 3 in for x right here, I get y equals 6 times negative 3 is negative 18 plus 12, and negative 18 plus 12 is a negative 6. That help, Maddie? Where did we go wrong? Just not
I don't know. I had negative 15 and no one said it was a negative 16.
Going once. Going twice. Going 3 times. Dirt. One more. I can tell this is going to be, we've got so much time. Number 11. We are sketching the graph of this inequality. Oh, I heard it yawn. I apologize for that. All right, Jenna, type of equation is it? Slope intercept. So what's my first step, Jenna? I put a dot where? Huh? Positive 5. Okay, this is where it crosses the y-axis. Big dot, positive 5. What is my slope, ma'am? 2 over 1, which means up or down 2, left or right 1. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to go because I ran out of room up top. Down 2 over 1 either this way or over 1 that way. Which way is it going? It's got to be positive slope, so it has to go uphill, so it's got to be this way. I usually go down 2 over 1. I usually do this a few times just so I get my nice straight line. Now it is not equal to, so it is a dashed line. And it is less than, so I shade the smaller side of the y-axis, which happens to be this side here. We need a bigger one. Save ourselves all some time. Does that help, John? Except I messed up my dash. Did I do something wrong? I get one bring out there. Elijah has been dying to say this. I hope it's worth it. I'm sorry, Jason.
Well, what was the answer to 8?
Somebody the answer to 8? Negative 4s. I think we even did 8.
Yep.
A pair of negative 4s. I'm sure I will put this video up for all to watch again tonight.
Yeah.
So if you want to make a cameo. Elijah.
Your turn.
Wait, am I done with this? Because I'm going to stop the camera because this isn't going to be worth putting on film.
Do you remember the Titans more than Miracle's eyes?
Ooh.
This is
Ooh,
crazy.
what's amazing? Spooky.
It's crazy. Takes my cameo.
It's crazy.